I'm lucky I made it through high school because that's all I did was draw. I drew in every class. This was before, you know, the standards they have today. So the teachers would pass me through their classes based on my drawings. I drew a picture of a high school teacher once, and he liked it so much. I wasn't going to pass his class until he saw this drawing, and he passed me through his class. But all those drawings that I did in high school were my portfolio when I went to Hanna-Barbera. I was always drawing. I'm still always drawing. You know, and everybody told me that I need to draw for a living, but in my brain, I resisted it. So I graduated from high school, and it wasn't until 4 years later that I went to Hanna-Barbera because, you know, working at the 7-Eleven doesn't cut it. So, I mean, I just had
not as much fun.
A bunch of crap jobs until I finally sunk in that there's an easier way to make a living. So,
now, were you drawing all the time that you were working at 7-Eleven? Yeah. You came home? Yeah.
But I just I didn't even really know what a portfolio was. I handmade a portfolio, stuck the drawings in it, and took it to Hanna-Barbera. And the guy who hired me, Harry Love, he was a director on the 1940s Tom and Jerry cartoons, the originals. And he's flipping through my work, and he says, you drew these? I said, yeah. He said, wait here. And about 10 minutes later, he came back and he said, can you start today?
Wow.
Yeah, I can start today. 31 years later, I'm still working in some form of the industry with just based on my high school sketches. I also worked in development of new shows, and I was working with Iwo Takamoto, who was the president of the studio at the time. And I was working directly for him from my first day. And he was the creator of Scooby-Doo. That was a lot of stress right out of the gate. But I was working on development of new shows. Somebody would come up with an idea, and you would do a lot of drawings, trying to create the look of the show or create the characters. And I worked with Bill Frake, who taught me how to do background layouts. So in animation, there's a lot of layoffs. You know, you go seasonal from project to project a lot of times. So I got laid off from Hanna-Barbera, and Bill had gotten the job as the head layout artist on Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And he had already been working on the show, and he called me and asked me to assist him on that. About 2 weeks into it, his wife had a baby. So he kind of had to be with her, and he disappeared for, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, which left me. And they kind of put me, they didn't hire, you know, somebody else who knew what they were doing, which would have been helpful. So I kind of designed Toontown. You know, I worked with Robert Zemeckis, who directed, you know, the Back to the Future movies and the faces that you see on the buildings and giving the buildings character. That was my idea.
Wow.
Which is still alive today in Disneyland, in their Toontown, in Mickey's Toontown, which is based off of my work, where Eddie drives into Toontown and kind of crashes his car. All those buildings that you see in the background there, this whole layout is my artwork directly on screen. This is a night scene. This is my drawing that's actually in the movie. After Roger Rabbit, somebody referred me to TV animation, Disney TV animation. And I started work on the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. And we won 4 Emmys for that show. And I did all the extra character design. I mean, the characters were already designed, but you know, any costume changes or any new characters that applied to the story, I designed those. So Winnie the Pooh, after that was Tailspin. with Baloo the bear, and so I designed the main characters for that. And again, this is all, I had no idea what I was doing. Like if you've ever seen Forrest Gump, you've seen my life, because I would just fall into these things. After TV animation, I mean, I worked on Tailspin. I created Bonkers. I created a lot of the characters for the Little Mermaid series. So I had kind of got wrung dry on animation, and I took a break and went to consumer products. So I was at Disney Consumer Products creating merchandise. And again, no experience. After that, I went to Film Roman Studios. It's years of being steeped in watching Disney cartoons and 1940s cartoons where people still knew how to draw. Make a lot of character design today. That's I designed the whale from the pilot of the Little Mermaid series. I also worked on a series called Adventures in Odyssey, which is a direct-to-video series. Worked for Mattel, designing toys, and worked with a lot of toy companies. A lot of titles for Disney Publishing and Little Golden Books. This is a real quick layout. I like to work as fast as I possibly can to get the image out of my brain and onto the paper as quickly as possible, and to capture as much energy as possible. You got to work fast. You know, to me, you can't noodle something to death, because it kills it, I think. If you can work up your speed, it'll really benefit you. And to work up the speed, you got to throw away a lot of stuff. You know, you got to just keep drawing and try and get your stuff down as quickly as possible. You know, it's not gonna be perfect right away. But I was at my desk one day at Disney, and I worked slow, and I thought, they're gonna let me go if I don't speed up. So I consciously made an effort to draw things as quickly as possible, get the impression down on paper, because you can always clean it up later. But to keep the life in it, you got to move fast. But this is where it's at right now. I've got a few more characters to add. And I've only been doing color since February of this year. I got the iPad Pro, which is amazing. You know, the ability to sit, you know, this is it, square box. This, you know, it's that flat. It's a screen, but there's nothing I can't do with it. You know, I can sit in Starbucks and create, you know, images. So working in layers and working with Procreate, the app that I use to draw and add the color to these things, it gave me the ability to experiment and to find, it's always been in my head, but to do it on paper, and it just never worked for me. So as of February this year, you know, I'm able to do that kind of stuff. I mean, just taking what I could already do and adding ideas that the ability through that app. I don't know. It's hard to verbalize this.
You use one of the new Apple pencils?
Yes. I mean, you can use your fingers, but you know, quick layout. It's great, this feature that captures the whole process I've been waiting for that for years. You know, and trying different things and lighting effects, and you know, this is almost a golden books style illustration. Again, there's not a lot of thought process on my part. You can ask anybody, including my ex-wives. I'm just kind of playing it by ear.
You're just, okay. It's like you're playing a musical instrument almost.
Yeah, it's jazz. I mean, I just go in there and draw something. You know, I'm laying down the colors based on a silhouette. The white silhouette that you saw, I block out all the color on that, and because I'm working in layers, once I have the character down, I can work on a background layer, not affect, you know, the character. Lighting, all the lighting you see is on another layer, so it's not affecting the character. If you're not working in layers, you should be, whether in paper or digitally. You'll just get things done so much faster. You can, if you like an element like the character, you can, you know, put that in a folder and lock it, and you're fine. You can do all the other elements around it. If you don't like the character, but you love the background, you know, you can redo the character. It's, you know, you don't have to do the whole complete image over.
How did the old-time animators do it?
Well, I'm pretty sure you can find something online that looks like a light box. You're a slant board made out of plastic with a light underneath that will allow you to see your lines through several layers of paper. So you can focus on your character, you can focus on your background. This is it, you know, old school animation, where you would have a fully rendered painted background, and then the character would be on a plastic cell, you know, a see-through cell. Lay that over the painted background and you have an animation set up. And that is completely applicable with book illustration. You know, if you want to fully render or do a watercolor background, you can do that on board or however you do that image, and then do the character on another layer. Now you can get, you can go to a copy shop, your character Xeroxed onto a plastic cell.
A transparency,
and lay it over your background. However you want to do it. To me, layers work best. You know, if you're comfortable, this is just my technique. So,
with working with layers as you do, does it ever get to the point? I know this happened with a lot of writers with word processing or writing programs, because they had so many options and they could go back 50 revisions and pull out the sentence they'd revised 50 times, and you've got all these choices about revisions, kind of like layers. It gets to be overwhelming and you've got too many choices and you confuse yourself. You don't seem to be troubled by,
again, if you overthink things, you can complicate anything for yourself.
Go with your gut. You're saying be zen about it. Just go with your
simple.
Physical reaction, and what your impulse is to do next, you do that.
If anything, my story is all about just jumping in and doing it. You know, it's worked so far. Let me share another video. It's a little more detailed, layout-wise. That's the completed image.
This is how it starts. Shared that one with us on a critique one night.
Get the emotion down. Get as much as you can of the feeling of the character. And I've also done some acting and improv and that kind of thing, which helps a lot, you know.
You're kind of improvising and acting as you draw, aren't you, as well?
Yeah. If you can capture the emotions and capture the feeling in the eyes, I mean, the eyes are really the key to getting the feeling of the character across.
Uh-huh. It looks like when you're making a scene like this, you're kind of going, you're not getting too caught up in any one character. You're kind of going back and forth a little bit so that you're seeing everybody at once sort of taking shape.
That's that jazz thing. It's
okay.
You're playing notes all across the and you know, that's always been my theory too, is this is music. You're composing a piece of music that everything should work together, including the background, all the characters involved, even the color.
What happened to the drawing that suddenly has gone very light, and you're still following your lines, but what did you do?
In digital layers, you can lower the opacity of a layer so that you can clean up on top of it.
But you don't lose it. You can always bring it back to full opacity.
Yes.
Now you're just painting with brushes that you've imported into Procreate.
Actually, this one was done about a month or two after I got the iPad. So this is all original Procreate brushes and things. Just using what I had there.
You're doing the local color. You're laying in the local color first, and then you're modeling and shading and deepening.
I don't even know what local color means.
Okay. Well, the original blue on that dragon was one big flat layer, and then you sort of sculpt him with.
Yeah.
Okay. And now you're drawing. You're going back over some. You're making some outlines. You're rearranging the characters.
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty of layers.
Yeah.
If you're not happy with where it's at, you can flip the character. You can move them. You could.
Do you have a separate layer for each character, Len? Often, or
a separate layer for each character, and a lot of separate layers for color breakdowns, and like the face is on a different level, the hair is on a different level. You know, and then I'll work the shading in on those individual layers. So I'm not even affecting other colors and shapes on the same character. I'm doing some minutia here that does not even show on the screen, but it's still going.
What are you doing?
Actually, I'm in the dog's face, and I see I just flipped the chicken around. That could be a phrase, flip the chicken.
Yeah, sure could. And there goes that flat color, and now you're bringing white in, and you're building him.
Yeah, so when you see something flash on and off, that's because it's a layer.
Oh, you're selling us on these digital tools.
It's the way to go on it. And so I just raised the chicken off the ground and added the fence on another level.
Yeah, that's so much better. So now he's
That's it.
He's a silhouette. That is adorable. You're going to be putting up a YouTube channel before too long, aren't you, Len? And teaching children how to do some of these things?
I'm working on that starting now, but it'll be up next year, early next year. Well, every time I draw, this program captures the video. You don't have to think about it. A lot of what you already know is applicable. If I can learn it, anybody can learn it. Like I said, I didn't go to school for any of this. I'm just learning as I go.
Not even Disney had plopped you down in classes. They just had you busy working all the time.
It was, well, this was the beginning of Disney TV animation, and you had to feed the beast. I mean, they were already, so they just kind of threw you in, sink or swim.
Sink or swim.
I learned by fire.
Yeah.
This is a piece I just did on Procreate, Christmas thing.
He's a glistening Santa Claus. Is that what a California Santa Claus looks like?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty funny. He's got a great tan working there.
I'm always trying to come up with something different.
She's got the shadow of the tree on her face.
Well, I grew up, in the 60s and 70s where that style, I love that style, that mid-century style.
Mid-century style. You're making me feel old.
Well,
I'd like to ask you about the model sheets that you gave us some samples. One of them you'd done yourself, and others you sort of pulled from your files that had been done by other illustrators. But I wonder if you could talk us through what you were doing there and how that works. And this is a way to get to know your character from all the different points of view, like you're putting him in front of you. There's your little bear.
Something that every animation studio uses is character model sheets so that everybody working on the production knows exactly what the character looks like from every angle. And to me, that's important in illustration also. Every layout, you're going to use a different view of your character, so it's best to know your character from every view. And also to know it before you start the book. You don't want to be in halfway and, well, how am I going to show that character from this angle? It's better to play with the character. And this is one from TV animation, Disney TV animation, Chippendales Rescue Rangers. Not only to know the turns, but facial expressions and attitude. And again, that goes back to acting. Every character is going to have a different attitude, a different pose, a different facial expression. In the
Chippendales, the little girl character, I noticed there was a proportion. There were 3 spheres stacked on top of each other to show that she's going to be 3 heads tall. Is that what that means? That's the measuring unit, and so that's how you scale her, not only from top to bottom, but maybe left to right and across.
Actually, it's about
it's
about
3
2 2 heads high.
2 2/3.
That goes back to old Mickey Mouse model sheets, and the appeal of a character is typically 3 heads high. In Disney animation, it's kind of a rule. So that's just a nod back to showing that appealing size ratio. Well, naturally, the top head is the head. The second one is almost the body, but it's just a scale ratio. The cuteness ratio. And that's effective. I mean, if you're drawing kids in your books, that kind of scale ratio, it's worked in the past. So
that's why they're so cute, because they've got the cuteness ratio going for them. But you can use the head as the measuring unit for different kids at different ages. And with your proportions, so important. You had pulled up Simba because he was a little more detailed as a model sheet.
And that's just to show that these model sheets are done for everything. And something as complicated and anatomically correct as Simba, they do it for that too.
Now, as a character designer, are you required to turn in a model sheet of your character seen in the round like this with all the different?
For me, it's always been just a 3/4 front view and maybe some attitude poses just to get the idea across. Once the character is approved, then you have to do full turns and you have to do tighter attitudes,
Okay.
because a lot of this animation goes overseas. It used to go to Japan, but now it goes to Korea and the Philippines and actually all over the
Yeah.
world. So they need as much
Huh.
information as they can get, you know.
So I realize you didn't do the particular Simba here, but if
No.
had this been one of your characters, what would you be? How do you do that? How do you create one of these from scratch, out of your imagination, and make it so convincing and plausible and feel
Yeah,
like part of the same character? What's that process?
that's experience and watching. I mean, something like Simba, you know, you look at a lot of video, you look at photos of lions, and then the facial, I mean, it's all face on the character that brings the character to life. It gives it that Disney touch. You have to know where the eye placement is and the shape of a Disney eye. I mean, body-wise, that's a lion. Face-wise, Disney cartoon character. For characters that I created, it comes down to what I like, my history of the cartoons I like, characters I've seen that. Let me show you a couple of these. These are rough character sketches for a video series. So I'll just blast something out on the page as quickly as possible. And I will try to come up with different styles just so they have something to choose from. This is the same set of characters, fleshed out a little more. The client wanted these little potatoes.
They look like angry birds, except they're other creatures. Okay.
I wasn't crazy about that one. But you go through a whole process of trying different things and different shapes, different eye shapes.
And you're acting and you're entertaining.
It's all in there. You know, you just pull it out as you need it. Really going back to my love of golden books and that style, that 60s style.
Is this a Procreate piece as well?
Yes.
You know, that Little Red Riding Hood character, she says exactly who she is. We know this girl.
And what does she say to you?
She's just sweet and adorable and loud and hard to sit still in the first grade classroom. She might need medication because she's jumping up and bouncing around all the time, but you can't get real mad at her. And she's trusting. I mean, I've got this whole story going on about her just because of the lines and the shapes that you gave us.
If you want to write up the rest of the story, I'll illustrate it. See where it goes.
Deal. Done. Done. And she's totally nullified the wolf. She has
no idea what's going on.
She has no idea, but he has absolutely been rendered harmless by her apple pie smells or her picnic smells, and he's not going to be a problem for her.
I think that kind of theme goes through a lot of my work of really no clue the danger behind you.
It's the story of all our lives.
Yeah, just get on with it.
Keep running. All you got to do is outrun the thing that's chasing you, and you might be okay.
Yeah, or be oblivious to it.
Or be oblivious. Either way could work.
Trying to see if I could do character design on the Procreate app, which I guess I can.
And we've got 3/4 views, kind of. Yeah, that's 3/4
this is
view.
more of an attitude.
And you've got a full figure.
This, you were asking earlier, this is what I would originally show if I was presenting to a client. You know, a full figure and some attitudes. That's the initial character design sheet.
And then the tweaking process begins. The feedback.
Yeah.
If it happens.
They'll give you notes, and maybe the nose is too big, and then you have to go back and try a lot of different things, and then they go back to the original character and say that's the one we like after you do it.
Right.
So
right. Fortunately, you've saved those layers.
Yeah. Almost everything I do now is done in layers, because I kind of, with experience, kind of know what they're going to ask to change. So I keep everything in layers. It just makes revision so much quicker. And yeah.
You do hands and feet brilliantly. And you're self-taught. So how did you teach yourself to do so well with human hands, animal paws, feet?
After being told 100 times, you can't really draw hands. I started focusing on drawing hands. In fact, a lot of times, if you look at this piece, the hands are hidden. Hands are tough.
You don't make them look tough in your renditions, though.
Well, I've got it down to a style.
Uh-huh.
You know, these kind of modified Mickey hands.
Mm-hmm.
This one shows hands. You know, that's not any kind of anatomically correct. They don't even match.
Yeah, only Disney gets to get away with that.
You get two different hands. Yeah. One's more rounded and one's more squared off. So
yeah,
don't ask me about details.
That makes us feel better, though.
Everybody, has to work through that.
Yeah, everybody struggles with hands and feet, but you've got to sort of have a way to pull it off, and you certainly do.
You know, I just draw these big, fat, clumpy shapes. They're at the end of arms, so people assume they're hands.
Yeah. Okay.
You make that.
That's
leap.
encouraging.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, and you're just not thinking about it all that hard. So, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a little reference helps.
A little more realistic style, but
yeah,
you know, it helps to be able to draw in a lot of different styles. You know, if I was ever going to work for Ripley's Believe It or Not.
That looks like one of those black velvet paintings. Your approach to this one.
I used to love those things.
The Bedrock Drive-In. So when you're designing a character for a project, Len, how long do you give yourself to come up with rough concepts that you're going to show the client or the director or the writer?
I usually do it as soon as I don't even read the whole script. I just look at the character descriptions and
you just go right there.
Quickly as possible. Yeah, because to me, it's all gut instinct. I like this character. I like the ratio of the hair to the head, kind of sleek body.
Children have thin bodies like that.
Yeah. But the ratio of that head shape, including the hair, I like it. You know.
What do you think of her having a prop, her model sheet having a prop that she holds?
You wouldn't usually have it on a model sheet. I mean, you know, we're looking at almost a full front, a profile, and a three-quarter front.
Mm-hmm.
It's just basically the construction of the character. You know, you're not adding any elements like a jump rope or any kind of prop. But overall, the character design is nice. It's really nice.
Anne could take this 3-view and just feel pretty confident about moving forward with her illustrations from here. She could extrapolate.
Yeah, I would do a few more attitudes and see where the character goes. You know, really think about, you know, who she is and how she would behave in certain situations. You know, if there's a story that goes with this, flesh out those poses.
Okay, have her acting out some of the moments, almost like a screen audition or a.
Well, every page that you illustrate, you know, you're conveying the story. It's to me, it's, you know, not just a flat image to fill the space, but as much as you can show the attitude of the character, the kid's going to love that, you know, to see that kid live on the page. So
you're working on a book, Len, with a character. How many images would you do before you felt comfortable to move forward? You get the rough big view right away of the 3 views, but then how many additional little moments and scenes, vignettes would you do of your character before you started going into the individual scenes?
I know you had another guest on that kind of talked about storyboarding your illustrations. I would, knock out, you read the script, and pull out the ideas that you think would make the best images for the book. And then as quickly as possible, lay those out, do thumbnails, and because you can always come back and, like the illustration, the video I showed, you flip the chicken.
Yeah.
You do all that stuff. So
that's going to be our jargon, our buzzword from now on. When we talk about
flip the
tweets.
chicken. I'm going to make
chicken. Flip the chicken on this one. You can.
So this is a really good image. As far as, all the expressions and all, I know what's going on. I like the Maurice Sendak roar in there, but the attitudes of all the different ghosts or creatures that are there in the woods. The only one I see is the little bear that could use a little more emotion, because it looks like he's imagining himself as this bigger bear, but I'm not seeing that in the little bear himself.
To see a hint of that in the little bear before his transformation.
Yeah, maybe? I'd like to see, because he looks like a stuffed bear rather than a live character. Every other character on this page has some emotion going on.
It's like they're thinking their own thoughts.
Except the main little guy. So that's my only note on this. Otherwise, I love the image and the idea. You see the process of him imagining himself as the bigger bear. To me, he reads like a stuffed bear. Like there's really nothing alive about that. The rest of the page has so much life going on. And I don't know if that was intended to be a stuffed bear.
Well, I think it might have been, but even if it was the stuffed animal, would you encourage her to try a little animation in the stuffed animal teddy bear? Yeah.
Winnie the Pooh was a stuffed bear with little dot eyes, but you still felt some life out of him.
You felt him. You felt him being a character.
All of the other attitudes have so much life and expression to them, except that the main character, I think, on the page. Great work otherwise.
And Stacy says it is a stuffed bear.
Oh, it is? But even then...
Coming to life to protect, he's a teddy. But even then, you're saying there's an opportunity to make him a living character.
Even with the tilt of the head, he looks kind of... I get it. He's kind of a meek little guy imagining himself as a bigger bear. But I would still give the head a little more attitude or a little more tilt upward or something.
Little personality, little spark of something.
A little more determined attitude. Like, if I was that big, that's who I would be. This is very nice. That's a character turn. That's right on. It's a great looking character. I would like to see some personality poses. All the views are right on. These are more action poses than character turns, but the idea is there. This 3/4 front view, I would just work on that. You have a good sense of the action poses. The center one is a nice action pose, but he looks kind of slumped and tired in the 3/4 front view. And the head gets a little flat on the back view. Might just want to round out the back of the head a little more. And watch the length of the arms, because on that back view, his arm would go down below his knee.
Maybe even for an elf.
Well, if it's an elf on a shelf, they have long arms. So this is a nice illustration. And the back view and the 3/4 back view, I think the head ratio gets a little away from the three-quarter front view, it looks a little large in comparison to the three-quarter front view. That's again in layers. You know, you have your three-quarter front view, you can put another piece of paper on top of it and know exactly where the eyes are going to line up, and the head shape stays the same.
Okay, so on these model sheets, on these views, you would like, they probably should all be in the same scale. It shouldn't be sized differently on this sheet because you're going to need those proportion references.
Right. I mean, it's great illustration.
It's
I'm
beautiful.
talking about proportions.
And
you
how
know,
we're showing the character on these sheets in a very specific sort of way because these are tools.
Right. And except for the hat and the hair on the fourth image, it could be two different kids.
Something changed. Uh-huh.
So if you can find a way, a light table or whatever, to do that layered effect, you'll find that you get a more consistent character. On separate pages, you might never notice that
It's not an issue. Yeah.
But when you see them lined up like this, there's a lot of difference between.
Because when they're lined up like this in a lineup with, you know, with the police marker lines on the back wall, but even without that, our eyes can tell, are much more discerning on the subtle differences.
I think even if I saw these images on different pages, I would say that they were different characters.
It's a great way to get to know your character. What about this one? Does he look like the same boy?
You know, I used to do this myself. You know, when you try and do a character, but not to beat the layers thing to death, but you know, your hand is going to go where it goes. You try to capture that consistency, but it's rough without working in layers. You know, you see the two kids' faces looking at each other, and there's a lot of difference between the two. Mm-hmm. So for whatever that's worth, I mean,
yeah.
Is that from the same artist?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that. Isn't that an awesome painting? Looks like, you know, it kind of looks like turn of the century children's book illustration.
Are there any other pages that go along with this set? Because I'd like to see.
I'm not sure we've seen any more pages from the set. Carol, if you're there, you might fill us in.
For a portfolio, you know, for an illustration portfolio, if you did 2 more pages of this same kid in different, you know, where we see the front of the kid and in a different pose or different layout. Because rendered it looks awesome.
When you say layers being so helpful, again, we need to be reminded that as traditional painters, many of us, we can still do layers with transparencies, plastic sheets, or you can do tracing paper, sometimes even copy paper over a light box. Lots of options there.
Yeah. I mean, you could even reuse that background and just have the kid, you know, in another area of the page, bouncing a ball or sitting with a cat. That's
chestnuts.
Cool.
Virginia's turning them into characters and trying to individualize them.
It's got a little bit of a Fantasia feel to it.
Hadn't thought of that before, but you're right.
It's a really good cartoony feel there at the bottom of pushing those shapes and feeling some weight with the one that's sitting down. There's some squash and stretch there. This person has a really good animation feel. You
can really feel Virginia kind of getting to know her characters with this exercise.
Yeah, I would. That shape would be a lot of fun to play with. Those heavy bottoms and the thin necks, and
kind of reminds me a little bit of Mickey's little broom in the Sorcerer's Apprentice. And
you can almost feel that that brush shaking in front of
You
that.
can feel him waddling and walking.
Yeah. Just a question on the second row of images, why it flattens out. But I thought you would keep that bulb shape all the way around. It kind of flattens out.
It is the same character, isn't it?
It's a great style. That's a turnaround. It's a nice character.
Does she look the same, like the same person from seeing from side to side?
No, there's a good sense of where everything is related to it.
Yeah.
On the structure. Yeah. These are attitude poses, but nice feel. Feels like the character's alive. And yeah.
He sure looks like the same guy, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Nicely said.
Their model sheet, that's nice. That's really nice.
This is Chris's.
That's a full model sheet, you know, with the attitudes and the different facial expressions.
Also has this doll or puppet feeling about her.
Has Chris worked in animation?
Chris teaches art in the public schools, and I don't think he's worked in animation. I bet he knows a lot about it, though.
He should. That's definitely.
Yeah. Chris says he would love to work in animation.
Well, submit, because this is professional quality.
I hope Chris heard that. I think he did.
This too?
Here's some more. Yeah, this is his. Uh-huh.
This is the same artist?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He's got a story going here.
Disney has an online application site where you can submit your art, and so I'll send you that link, Mark, and if you can get it.
Okay, we'll put it. We'll add it to the video. Yeah, for sure. You're encouraging Chris to send some stuff his way, their way.
Yeah. I've seen this one before in critiques. This is.
Yeah, the Little Match Girl and the Hans Christian Andersen story that he is working on a dummy proposal for, a retelling.
I like the character designs. Just the features on the faces is unique, and this is something that you could submit to in story department. It's great. It's nice, consistent work on all the faces. Everything is, you know, the ratio to the eyes and the head shape and everything is.
No confusion, not that he's the same guy, is there?
No, they all look really good.
They only had just a matter of days to get something up because I got the word out to them so late, Len. So I'm pleased.
Great stuff. I would say there are a few there that you could submit, you know, if you wanted to work in animation. And there are a few that, with a little more work, you're definitely on the right path.
That's real encouraging. Thanks for going over them with us.
Yeah, no, that was impressive.
What's next on your plate? What's your next challenge that you're giving to yourself for?
My challenge is to get my my own instructional site up, and that's the goal for early next year, is to do more of this kind of thing and to
wonderful,
to put more videos up.
Will you be giving instruction on animation as well as art and drawing and digital tools? Or?
I'm just going to give instruction on how I do things, and God help anybody who follows that. If you love the movie Forrest Gump, then follow me. I'll show you how it's done.
But I know you also want to kind of be an outreach for kids that are learning to draw.
Just encourage. You know, I can't really teach because I don't really know what I'm doing. So if you like what I'm doing.
You can teach them to trust themselves.
Yeah. And that's the last message I want to leave with everybody. If you really want to do this, you can do it, because if I can do it, anybody can.
What a great message. You've shown us a lot of great stuff tonight, Len, so thank you so much. Guys, if you want to just type in some thank yous for Len so he will have a little record of who he was talking to tonight. They're saying thanks for everything. I've learned a lot from this. Do not overthink and have fun. Chris says this was wonderful to watch. Will definitely be helpful as I go back to my characters. Catherine says, thank you for sharing your artistic wisdom. Happy holidays, Len and Mark. God bless everyone, says Chris. Wow, so encouraging, says Ann. Thank you so much, Len and Mark. Okay, well, you get the gist of those comments. We're all really grateful that you spent the time with us tonight. Stay warm in California, Southern California.
I got the air conditioner going. I'm good.
Well, we saw what Santa Claus looks like there. Yes, you got the air conditioner going.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Thank you so much, Len. Good night.
Good night.